The first warning does not come from the radars over Kyiv. It comes from a young air surveillance officer in the western oblasts, watching a cluster of slow, low contacts emerge over the Black Sea horizon, then another cluster behind it, then another. Within 90 seconds, her screen is no longer tracking individual drones. It is tracking a shape. A wave. She keys her headset and speaks the words every Ukrainian air defender has learned to dread. Massed raid. Multi-axis. Inbound. In Kyiv, the sirens begin before most of the city understands why. What the public will later be told is that Russia launched one of its largest combined strikes on the capital in months, hundreds of Shahed-type drones, decoys, cruise missiles, and ballistic weapons fired in a single coordinated package. What the public will not immediately understand is that the danger of this night is not the size of the raid. The danger is the time the defenders did not have. Because by the moment the first Shahed crosses into Ukrainian airspace, a different category of weapon is already most of the way to the city. And nobody has seen it yet. To understand what is happening, rewind 4 hours. Across southern Russia and occupied Crimea, satellite passes had picked up the usual signatures of a major strike night, Tu-95 bombers being fueled, MiG-31 interceptors armed with Kinzhal air-launched ballistic missiles, Iskander transporter erector launchers leaving their garrison hides, and naval platforms in the Black Sea moving to launch boxes. None of this is new. Ukrainian intelligence has read this script for nearly 4 years. What is new is the choreography. The Shahed swarm is not the strike. It is the clock. Russia has learned, slowly and expensively, that Ukraine's layered air defense, Patriot, SAMP/T, Iris-T, NASAMS, Jeopard, mobile fire groups in pickup trucks with machine guns, can absorb enormous volumes of slow drones if the defenders are given time. So the new doctrine, refined R.A.I.D. by raid through 2025, is to attack time itself. Flood the picture. Force the operators to commit. Make them burn radar hours, interceptor inventory, and human attention on the cheap stuff. Then, in the narrow window when the defenders are most saturated, send the things that actually matter. Tonight, that window opens at roughly 0247 local. By that point, the air picture over central Ukraine has become a blizzard. More than 500 tracks are being managed across the National Air Defense Network. Many are decoys, cheap airframes mimicking Shahed signatures, designed to die. Some are real Shaheds carrying warheads of 40 to 90 kilograms. A handful are reconnaissance drones doing nothing but watching, sending back damage assessment, mapping where Ukrainian SAM radars light up and where they stay dark. Inside a Patriot battery on Kyiv's outer ring, the engagement officer is doing arithmetic he has done 100 times and still hates. He has a finite number of PAC-3 interceptors. Each one costs more than the building he is sitting in. The doctrine is brutal but simple: do not waste $1 million missile on a $50,000 drone unless that drone is on a terminal run at a protected asset. He holds fire. He lets the Jeopards and the mobile teams chew the swarm. He waits for the real threats. He is right to wait. He is also, without knowing it, exactly where the planners in Russia wanted him to be. At 0251, an E-3 AWACS operating in NATO airspace over Poland passes a flash track to Ukrainian liaison officers. A MiG-31K has just gone supersonic over Russian airspace and released. The release point and trajectory are consistent with a Kinzhal launch on a Kyiv area target. Flight time to the capital, under 6 minutes. 6 minutes is not a battle. 6 minutes is barely a decision. The Patriot crew receives the Q and slews. Their N/MPQ-65 radar reaches out, finds the descending track, locks. The engagement officer's hand is already moving. He commits 2 interceptors, shoot, because a Kinzhal at terminal velocity is not something you bet a single missile on. The first PAC-3 leaves the canister with a sound that the crew feels in their teeth. This is the moment the public will see on video the next morning. The streak in the sky. The flash. The boom rolling across the river. The triumphant social media posts. Another Kinzhal down. But this is not the moment that matters. The moment that matters is happening 40 kilometers to the southeast, in a different layer of the sky, on a different axis entirely. And nobody is looking at it. Because while the Patriot battery is committed against the Kinzhal, a pair of Kh-101 cruise missiles is threading the Dnipro River valley at roughly 30 meters of altitude, following the terrain, their engines tuned for low acoustic signature, their flight profiles reprogrammed since the last major raid to avoid the geometry of known Ukrainian radar coverage. They are not flying toward Kyiv from the obvious direction. They are coming up from the south, behind a ridge line, using the river itself as a radar shadow. A surveillance radar near Bila Tserkva catches a flicker. Loses it. Catches it again. The operator does not have 6 minutes. He has 90 seconds. He pushes the track up the chain. The Kyiv sector controller sees it appear on her screen as a low-confidence contact, dotted, intermittent, the kind of return that on a quiet night would be classified as a bird, a weather artifact, a ghost. Tonight, with the swarm still saturating the picture above, it is almost lost in the noise. She stares at it for 3 seconds. 3 seconds she cannot afford. Then she calls it. Low-level cruise, south axis, vectoring toward government quarter. Assign now. This is the decisive moment of the night. Not the Kinzhal intercept. Not the drone counts. This call. One controller, one degraded track, one decision to treat a ghost as real. The nearest ASI. T is a mobile IRIS-T launcher repositioned only hours earlier to a wooded site west of the city, moved precisely because the previous position had been compromised by a Russian reconnaissance drone 2 nights before. Its crew has been awake for 19 hours. The battery commander has been refusing to release them. He releases them now. The IRIS-TS radar comes up hot. It finds the first Kh-101 at a range of 22 kilometers, closing at roughly 900 kilometers per hour, altitude 35 meters, profile consistent with a terminal run on a central Kyiv aim point. The launcher slews. The first missile is away. The second follows 4 seconds later for the trailing Kh-101. The math is brutal. From detection to impact on the city, the cruise missiles have less than 90 seconds of flight remaining. The interceptors need roughly 40 of those seconds to reach them. That leaves a margin measured in single digits. The first Kh-101 dies over a forested area south of the capital. The blast shakes windows in 3 villages. The second jinx, late model Kh-101s have terminal evasion programmed, and the IRIS-T interceptor misses by what telemetry later assesses as 11 meters. The cruise missile keeps flying. It is now 60 kilometers from its aim point, 28 seconds out, and the battery has no second shot in its envelope. A NASAMS battery north of the city, repositioned to cover exactly this kind of leakage, picks up the handoff. Its launcher is already cued. It fires once. The Kh-101 disappears from the screen at the edge of Kyiv's southern outskirts. The shock wave breaks windows for 2 kilometers. There is no warhead detonation against a populated target. There is no headline death toll from that missile. It is, by the standards of this war, a save. But the night is not over, and the planners in Russia knew the night would not end with 2 cruise missiles. Because while all of this has been happening, 2 Iskander and ballistic missiles have been climbing out of launchers in occupied territory, flying lofted trajectories with depressed terminal angles, decoys deploying in midcourse. Their flight time to Kyiv is roughly 4 minutes. They were launched at 0254, 3 minutes into the Kinzhal engagement, while the Patriot crew was reloading and reorienting. This is the real architecture of the strike. Not a single wave. A sequence. Each layer designed to exploit the recovery time of the layer before it. The Shaheds were the clock. The Kinzhal was the distraction. The Kh-101s were the test of the gaps. The Iskanders are the answer to whatever the defenders revealed. The Patriot crew on the outer ring catches the Iskanders. They have to. There is nothing else in the city's defense with the speed and altitude band to reach a ballistic terminal phase. The engagement officer who held fire on the drones, who spent his interceptors precisely on the Kinzhal, now spends what he has left. 2 PAC-3s on the first Iskander. 2 on the second. The first goes down clean. The second is a partial intercept, the warhead is fragmented but not fully neutralized. Debris and a degraded munition strike a power substation on the city's eastern edge. A district goes dark. Emergency crews are moving before the dust settles. By 03:12, the sky over Kyiv is quiet again. The numbers will come later. Drones launched, north of 300. Cruise missiles, in the dozens. Ballistic weapons, a handful, but the ones that mattered. Interception rate, high, but not total. Damage, a substation, a residential block clipped by debris, an industrial site in the suburbs, casualties that the morning will count slowly. The headlines will call this the largest attack on the capital in months. They will be correct. But they will be measuring the wrong thing. What changed tonight was not the size of the raid. Russia has launched bigger nights before. What changed was the integration. The way the layers fit together. The way the Shahed swarm was no longer an attack in itself but a timing device, a way to force Ukrainian operators to spend attention, inventory, and decision cycles before the real weapons arrived. The way the Kinzhal launch was timed to pull the highest-tier interceptors into a commitment window. The way the Kh-101s used the geography of the river valley to approach from the axis the defenders were least postured for. The way the Iskanders followed the cruise missiles by minutes, not hours, exploiting the reload gap. This is not a brute force strike. This is a kill chain designed against a specific defender, on a specific night, with a specific theory of how that defender's attention will move. And that is why this matters beyond Kyiv. Because every air defense network in the world, in Taipei, in Tel Aviv, in Seoul, in Warsaw, in the Gulf, is now studying this raid. They are looking at the layering. They are looking at the timing offsets. They are looking at how a defender with some of the best Western air defense systems on Earth, operated by some of the most experienced crews on Earth, still came within 11 meters of letting a cruise missile reach a capital city. They are doing the arithmetic on their own inventories. They are asking how many minutes of warning they would actually have. They are asking whether their own Patriot crews would have held fire on the swarm or burned through their magazines in the first hour. The lesson of this night is not that Russia is winning the air war over Ukraine. It is not. The lesson is colder than that. The lesson is that modern long-range strike warfare has stopped being about individual weapons and started being about the choreography between them. The Shahed is not a missile. It is a clock. The Kinzhal is not a missile. It is a decoy for attention. The cruise missile is not a missile. It is a probe of the seams. The ballistic missile is not a missile. It is the answer to the picture the first 3 weapons painted. And the death. Ender's hardest problem is no longer detection. It is not even interception. It is time. The time between when a threat resolves into something real and when the ideal shot is already gone. Tonight, in Kyiv, a sector controller looked at a dotted, intermittent return and made a call in 3 seconds that probably saved a government building. She will not be famous. She will go home at the end of her shift, eat something cold, sleep badly, and come back the next night to do it again. The next raid is already being planned. The choreography will be different. The seams will be somewhere else. The clock will start again. And somewhere, in a quiet operations room in another country that is not yet at war, a young officer is watching the replay of this night and writing down what she sees. She is learning, in real time, what the next decade of air defense is going to demand of her. She is learning that the most dangerous weapon in a modern strike is not the warhead. It is the minute you did not have.